live? You send me the headlines on WhatsApp. The headlines, the flyer on WhatsApp. You send me on my WhatsApp. Yeah. There's the it's
Imagine a life with zero worries. Imagine a world where you're relaxed and free, where all your dreams become reality, and all you need is within your reach. Be more, grow more, engage financial. No stress when it's time to
Pay financial have zero worries when it's time to pay your bills, rent, school fees, and vacation. We'll be here making it easy for you.
visit our website www.pagefinancials.com or call 01 700 7243. Page Financials taking you further. Hello, this is Jessica Bongos, and you're listening to the Smooth Breakfast Show.
The Smooth Breakfast presents the headlines, the stories, the news,
said by iPod terrorists.
in-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Headlines.
Get quick access to loans from Page Financials. Page
Studio.
Financials, taking you further.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Freshly Pressed 981. This is Smooth 98.1, Love Music, Love Life. My name is Valentine Rohu. Welcome to a new week. It is time for us to get into Freshly Pressed 981 to discuss the headlines, top headline stories here this morning. I have Cheta Wante and Mr. C as my guest. Good morning, Cheta.
Good morning.
Mr. C, good morning.
Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Cheta. Good morning, Lagos.
Wish you a wonderful week. Today is the last day of May 2021. So,
Is it?
yes, it is.
Where's the year going?
I don't know. We have 212 days, 215 days left.
So this morning he started at 221. Then
Yeah.
he changed to 214. Now he has changed to 215.
No, because I'm removing the yesterday. Shut up. I'm serious. So you listened at the beginning. I'm glad. Very impressed. Thank you so much. Now we are going to take all these headlines. I'll give you a rundown so you're aware. Constitution review: Northwest, South, South, Southeast intensify lobby for more states. That's from this day newspaper. Look out for law threatens to deactivate absconded travelers' passports for 1 year. There are different categories to this for Nigerian passports and foreigners as well. Federal government to privatize 12 highways. Vanguard report on exclusive presidency may read in June, according to investigative report. Premium Times has this report again. Bandits abduct many students in Niger State. And there's a story we'll get into: millions lost in Ladikwa spare parts markets in Feno. And then we'll talk about the recent killing of Ahmed Gulak, a former special advisor to Goodluck Jonathan. We'll discuss that in the stories as well. The economy is still crawling after 22 years of unbroken democracy is the final story. Share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. Twitter at Smooth981FM. We're streaming live on YouTube. Chatter. Constitution review: Northwest, South, South, Southeast intensify lobby for more states. Once upon a time we had 18, now increased to 36. Are we asking for more? Are we have we not
Once
learned our
upon
lessons?
at independence we had three. So I mean it's a geometric progression. I mean there's a story I told, and this is based on one of the states that is being agitated for another states from Delta, which is where you will be from
Yes.
if it happens.
After
Now
Benga.
consider with not even consider somebody who was born in 1900 in Sabah. Mhm. As of the time he was born in a possession of the Royal Niger Company. And then a few years later, he was told that he was from the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. Then a few years later, he was told that he was from southern Nigeria on a division. And then at some point, he became from Asaba division was created, taken out of Onitsha division and put in Western Nigeria. So he became from Asaba division, Western Nigeria. And then in 1963, his son became from the Midwest. Then in 1976, he was told that he's from Bendel. Then in 1991, he was told that he's from Delta. Like joke, we're looking at 2021, and who knows, he might become from Anioma. I mean, that's an identity crisis that we've created there. Having said that, I understand I mean, the all the concerns with regards to identity and all of that in this country have a basis. And there was a report that was commissioned by the British before they left under the Honorable Justice Willings, and it never was fully addressed. It was perhaps addressed only once, which is why I chose that as Abaman as an example, because the creation of the Midwest is the only time in Nigeria's history that a state, a subnational unit, has been created by the consent of the people the of that state. Of all the state requests that if I were the one making the decision, of all the state requests, I would say that it's only the Kaduna slash Gurara thing that makes sense to me, because it's clear that the peoples of what is now southern Kaduna can no longer live with their counterparts from the northern part of the states. The problem with that Kaduna slash Gurara thing, though, is that um, if it happens within this our Byzantine money sharing arrangements that we have, because all the states share revenue from the FG, which essentially supports their bureaucracy and all that.
Yes.
If it happens within that, we'll be faced immediately with the problem of, should Gurara be in the northwest, giving the northwest 8 states, or should Gurara be in the middle belt, giving the middle belt 7 states? And then people from the southeast will be crying that they have only 5 states, which within the system that we operate reduces their voice at the table. So this is a practical problem. From my point of view, the Southeast is too small geographically for us to be talking of creating even more states. And at the end of the day, the people in the Southeast are, to a large extent, very similar. So when you start talking, if you drive from Onitsha in Anambra State today to Enugu in Enugu State, then take a right turn and drive down to Abia State, and then take a left, another right turn and drive into Imo State, then a right turn and drive back to Onitsha. You are speaking the same language throughout. It's the same broad mindset. Um, I didn't include Ebonyi years, but in all of that, you briefly pass through Ebonyi in between Enugu and Abia, very briefly, but the main route to Ebonyi is a straight down route. The bottom line is, I don't understand these agitations for Njaba states or Rashi states, Adada state. Adada is what Unsuka people, Wawa people are crying for. It again does not make sense.
Well, doesn't he speak to underrepresentation over the years? Because it seems like
underrepresentation of who? See, the brutal reality is that all the cries of marginalization in this country are cries of marginalization by the political elite in different parts of the country. I go around Nigeria sufficiently enough to know that every part of the country is marginalized in one way or the other. So it's political elites who are driving these things because of this system that we have of sharing the money. If I were to pick, if it were me that was to decide, and at the end of the day, it's not me that to decide, but hypothetically, I would say the only state worth creating right now is Anioma. Remove it from Delta, add it to the southeast, so that the southeast has 6 states. Divide Kaduna into 2. Kaduna and Gurara. Met Gurara with P2, and merge Kaduna with Katsina, so that suddenly all these regions, all the 6 geopolitical regions, will have 6 states.
Equal.
That cry of marginalized, it eliminates that particular cry. But that is not the real issue. that we should be talking about. The real issue we should be talking about is productivity. You can easily count in each of the geopolitical zones at least two states that are that are not productive, and the only reason they exist is to share federal allocations. That's the real thing that we should be talking about. How do we raise productivity? And raising productivity by default will mean merging some of the states. The last time I yelled a particular state here, I got a lot of hate mail, so I'm not going to pick anyone to yab, but I can, from each geographical zone, I can count easily two states that don't exist.
But we're having each other when we don't present any proof of internally generated revenue, and we go cap in hand every month begging, no, we need
Like
federal
I said,
That's
from
the
each
biggest
of the
gap.
from each of the geopolitical zones, easily two states each that shouldn't exist. That's 12. But the thing is, if you really sit down and think about it, so it's one of the existing states have no business being states.
Actually, it's more like 25.
Say that again.
It's more like 25 or 26 because really and truly, there are only about 6 states that
No be me talking
are
about.
close to solvent
Mm.
or barely solvent. The rest, no.
So yesterday, we heard about the former political advisor to the president, Goodluck Jonathan. Um, he was killed on his way to the airport in Owerri, where he was going to catch a flight to Abuja. Police reports, in fact, police statements, paraphrasing, said that he left without a security detail, almost inferring that, oh, I mean, he threw rockets or caution to the wind and put himself in harm's way. But he was killed. His assailants were said to have used the Toyota Camry 2005 model with silver color, a Sienna as well. I mean, they gave these car models, but what they do not say is who these culprits are. All we hear now is from the police, especially from the Imo State Police Command, is that 4 persons who participated in the murder of Ahmed Gulak have been killed in a shootout at Abombise. How do you match these two, the narrative, the body language of the police and this statement?
I think the first thing that we should look at is the statement that the police released about 3 hours after Gulak was killed. And first things first, God rest the dead. Whichever we will look at it, a man was snuffed out before his time, and that shouldn't be happening. Having said that, it's unfortunate that it appears that the security services are working towards the answer, towards a predetermined answer.
They're walking from the answer. They have an answer, and then walking their way back.
Okay, they have an answer and working their way back, or working towards a predetermined answer. I'd say Papa won't work them, but anyway. See, what has been happening, especially in Imo states, is very condemnable. You cannot divorce the fact that the plummeting in what previously was actually the least dangerous geopolitical zone in the country prior to October of last year, that the security plummeted after the IPOB leader, I'd rather not mention his name, told his people to start attacking security services. Now, after that speech, again, one of his rambling speeches on his radio station, which somehow Nigeria has been unable to prevent from broadcasting. After that speech, the attacks went up. So we now have a situation where, second only to the south-south, the southeast is highest in the country. Only after the south-south. The south-south, they've been attacking police formations in the police roadblocks in the south-south. We've been tracking it since 2017 at least. It's an epidemic out there. Those states, Delta states, Akwa Ibom state, Cross River state being the biggest culprits. But before, it used to be the north central and then the northwest. Now the southeast has come from nowhere to overtake these other zones, and it's second only to the south. That is a problem. But what has now happened is that has created room for other actors to come in and take advantage. So, for example, when I went to Owerri 2 weeks ago, I have somebody who typically picks me up at the airport, drives me around, all that. And it was very clear that I shouldn't use the early flights. I should come in like in the afternoon. He was very clear because robberies in Imo State have gone up. I called him yesterday,
Mm.
and the first thing he said was, "Check out these things," and it was an armed robbery. And I find it very interesting that that first the police kind of gave that leeway, and then suddenly said, "Oh, we have found them," and then reverted back to their old ways of extrajudicial killing. Because a statement that was released yesterday said, "Oh, we've killed 10 people," but the initial statement said there were 6 assailants.
Mm.
So this thing of not doing proper investigative work, but having an
was
answer
there
and working
any
backwards,
investigation?
there was none.
So,
I mean, the whole thing happened. He was killed about 24 hours ago.
so there's nothing proper about something that never happened.
And that is the problem. So when you have this situation where our policing is carried out by, I'm trying to find a polite word here, where our policing doesn't is not intelligence led, we'll keep having these issues. So you say unknown gunmen, unknown gunmen. Okay, unknown gunmen. But suddenly you turn around and say, we know them. You haven't even given us a name.
Yeah.
You've not given us a name. And yesterday, there were complaints from students in Imo State University in Owerri that in the evening, security services, security forces came into their school and started picking students at random. So what guarantees do we have that it is not some of those students who were picked at random that were killed and then said they are unknown gunmen?
What does that even mean? Because it seems to be an easy phrase to couch all. Maybe you summarize these things.
At the end, in the end, there's another angle that needs to be put, because if I were in charge of security, it's one of those that I will be investigating. There's a huge fight between Hope Uzodinma, the current and dare I say illegitimate governor of Imo State, and his predecessor Rochas. And it was Gulak who, because when his time was coming to an end, Rochas wanted to impose his brother-in-law as his successor, and it was Gulak who stopped that.
And Gulak is the top APC chief.
He's an APC, and there is a huge quarrel. Hope Uzodinma himself has implied many times that a lot of the insecurity, he has actually said it on camera, that it's not IPOB, and then pointed the finger towards Rochas. Nobody has bothered to investigate that particular angle. It's there for everybody it's there for the security services to look at. There is clearly a fight between Rochas, who has Haji Egbema boys that he had armed before while he was governor. It's one of the problems in the Nigerian political space. Politicians sample these guys and then let them unleash them to do nonsense.
Thank you for that, Chita. Emeka from Amor says Nigeria is like a man who's struggling to feed his 36 children with dwindling wages. Now he wants to have more children. States need to be merged, not creating more states. Wow. Trisha from VI says, good morning, great crew. From the greed of our political stalwarts. Bingus says the restructuring we are clamoring for means different things to different people. To those lobbying for additional states, is what restructuring is to them. Whether creating additional states makes sense or not is another discussion entirely. All I see is sheer ignorance and unnecessary display of emotion in this whole discussion of restructuring. I just hope not common sense prevail for more states, because dishonest politicians looking for more ways to sink their fingers and toes into the national cake. May God protect the recently kidnapped students. It's all in God's hands now, because our leaders have failed us. Fabian says, listening to Chata today, one could say that Daniel has come to call to judgment. I hope that says, Chata, why do we need more states? Prince says, the monster people are pampering will consume them when there's nothing to feed on. Thank you so much for that. And I hear your expressions, Prince. It's like on this story from the Guardian newspaper. Lagos threatens to deactivate absconded travelers' passports for 1 year. About a month ago, there was a warning by the Lagos State's Ministry of Health, especially the Commissioner of Health, threatening to do this. And then the Presidential Task Force reiterated the consequences to those travelers, especially the airlines who are bringing travelers that do not adhere to these COVID restrictions. Now, this new sanction on ground, or this new warning on ground, how is it going to be applied?
Okay, thank you, Valentine. Now, sorry to the story. The headline is very misleading because Lagos state government cannot deactivate passports. They were only referring to the statement by the Presidential Steering Committee. Now, what has informed this position is, if we recall a few weeks back, travelers from three specific countries, India, Brazil, and Turkey, were restricted from flying into Nigeria. However, in spite of that restriction, 568 passengers were allowed to enter. Now, of that number, 433 passengers were isolated in various accredited hotels and facilities. Now, 262 are still in isolation. 154 passengers have been discharged with a negative COVID-19 test result. Now, 9 have tested positive. 9 of the 433 passengers who submitted themselves have tested positive and have successfully isolated to prevent communal transmission. Now, 135 passengers cannot be found. 119 refuse to isolate themselves, and 16 are unaccounted for completely. Now, Lagos State government is saying that in addition to the sanctions by the president from the federal level, they will impose the sanctions at the state level. And the coronavirus pandemic law 2021 of Lagos State prescribes a 1-year imprisonment and 50,000 naira fine. So this morning we appeal to Lagosians and I provide their details to the authorities so they can be picked up, especially those who have refused to isolate themselves and submit themselves for testing, because it's very important. And then in related news, the second dose, administration of the second dose of the vaccine starts today. It will run Monday through Friday every week and end on the 9th of July. So for all the Lagosians, everyone out there who got the first jab, this is your cue. Check your card. Go to the same locations you got the first jab from and take the second jab.
Yeah. When you said jab, I remember the pain I felt when I took my first vaccine. So when you call it jab again, I'm like, oh.
People who are taking this,
Second.
people who are taking the second one say it's not so.
Oh, and I've heard some people who haven't taken the second one say, no, the second one's going to be bad. All that conspiracy theory coming up. It's not true. And by the way, there are 88 health centers that are available, and it's important for you to note that if you check your card, you will find the exact dates for the next appointments, and it's important for you to go back to the same center where you got the first jab. To see. Let's go to our next story. First of all, we have this story here about federal government planning to privatize 12 highways tomorrow. That's today. Cheta, give us please these locations and really how it's going to run.
Basically, they are to open it for concession under the HDMI program, Highway Development and Management Initiative. The affected roads are Benin, Asaba, Abuja, Lokoja, Kaduna, Kano, Onitsha, Owerri, Aba, Shagamu, Benin, Abuja, Kefi, Akwanga, Lokoja, Benin, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Ilorin, Jeba, Lagos, Abeokuta, Lagos, Badagry, and Kano, Damaturu. Now, this one move by surface completely. The roads are in a bad shape. And this is it's a tacit admission by the federal government. I'm even happy. I'm even unhappy that they didn't add Onitsha Enugu to the list. It should be there. That road is decrepit. So here's the current lay of the land. Of all these roads that I've listed, the only one I haven't been on this year is Kano Damaturu and Kano Kaduna. Nowadays, whenever we are going to the north, it's kind of like a requirement that we have to fly to wherever we're going. Nobody wants to see us on any of those routes because of security issues. But the rest of the routes that were listed, I've been on all of them this year, and they are not in the best shape. Nowhere near the best shape. So this is basically an admission by the government that we can't handle this. Of all of them, the only ones that can be said to be in anything near good, Ilorin, Jeba on one hand, and then Enugu, Port Harcourt, which the really bad spot now is through the city of Aba, where they are fixing. But the rest of it is in decent shape. So yeah, I support this. It's a good move. Completely support.
Thank you for that. Mr. C, bandits have abducted students again. The second time this year, right? in Niger State. That's from Premium Times. Armed bandits are reported to have abducted many pupils of an Islamic school in Tegina, a densely populated town in Rafi local government area of Niger State. Speak to us, please, about your thoughts on this story and the response of the authorities.
Okay, so this is a very sad recurrence of something that has already previously happened. On the 17th of February this year, 42 individuals, Nigerians, were abducted from a school in Kagara in Niger State. Luckily, and fortunately for the families of these abductees, on the 27th of February 2021, 10 days later, they were released all unharmed. Fast forward a few months, Boko Haram hoist flags in Niger State. On Sunday, 4:30 a.m., over 200 students were abducted from an Islamic school in Tegina in Rafi local government area. Now, our thoughts go out, first of all, to the abductees, because it must be a very traumatic and harrowing experience for them, and also to their families, because this is something they honestly did not want, and we praise for it. Now, beyond that, it speaks sadly to the current state of insecurity in the land. That a repeat, we would have expected, conventional wisdom would have suggested that following the Kagara attack in February, measures would have been put in place to prevent something like this. Now, the reports say the abductors came on motorbikes. How do you move over 200 students?
On motorbikes.
No, not on motorbikes. They march on foot.
Yeah, I mean, how do you move that many students without anybody intercepting, no security operative, nothing, nobody raised an alarm? Are they flying in air? Did they go underground?
So it's so sad that this is happening, and the response of the Niger State government is not exactly impressive. I'm sorry to say this, because a government that is serious and dedicated to protecting and preserving the lives of the people under its jurisdiction will do more than this. And we're not hearing, okay, he set up a state community policing squad, he's empowered the existing security agencies in the state. And I dare say a ransom will be paid, and these people hopefully will be returned unharmed.
The same ransom we're trying to legitimize,
Valentine.
and at the same time encouraging by not doing anything about these abductions.
So, Valentine, you see, there's more to all these abductions than meets the eye. And it would appear very strongly that there's some level of collusion between the abductors and the security agencies, or gross incompetence on the part of the security agencies.
One thing or the other.
So it's very sad. We hope that they're released safely, and we do hope that the Niger State government will finally learn a lesson from all these attacks.
Hopes and dreams, Jetta. Will hopes and dreams save us in this case, especially as the economy is still coming under this much scrutiny? 22 years of broken or unbroken democracy.
So the Guardian has this headline: "Economy still crawling after 22 years of unbroken democracy," and it talks about from manufacturing, agriculture, solid minerals, retail, oil and gas, that the economy has not picked up in 22 years. I think that this is a very good example of where the media fails in its job to educate. They've given the impression, if you read the story, that the economy has been crawling for 22 years. That's patently untrue. In 1999, when we transitioned to democracy, the size of Nigeria's economy was $59.4 billion. $59.4 billion. Today, it's $429 billion. That is, it's multiplied by 8 at least in that 22 years. That's a huge growth for a country. Now, in that period, so 2014, it actually hit 568.5 billion. The great spurt of growth happened between 2003 and 2007, when the economy diversified following the entry of the telecom sector and the associated growth with services. Services grew on the back of telecoms. So that is the period that the economy diversified. What went wrong, or what really happened, was that we didn't take advantage of that and bring enough people into the tax brackets. Yes, it was boosted by the rebasing of 2010, but you cannot deny that between 2003 and 2013, which is a 10-year period, we were consistently among the fastest growing economies in the world. That's why a lot of people came back to the country. It's why people like me came back. I think there was hope. Then we made the mistake of 2015. And since 2015, since 2016, our growth has been anemic. It's not growing according to in tandem with population. So we can't properly diagnose where the problems are if we have these kind of dishonest narratives. There was a period where, because of reforms and because of proper, solid, grounded economic policies, we were growing and we're growing fast. But we've had wavy economic policies over the last 6 years. That's why we are growing in an anemic rate right now.
Thank you so much for that. Mina here commends you for your analysis as well. Says she's a great fan, but that she thinks the answer to these problems that we're experiencing now is for us to all ensure that we pick up our PVCs and vote the right people come 2023. Ikabolu says, folks asking for more states. Are they aware we don't have money? Shannon says, Shebi, soon each street will become a state. Shannon. Cisco Delgado, thank you so much for your message. Jibril says, not hearing the fearless chatter this morning. Thank you, Jibril. Thank you so much for your messages. Keep your names added to your message as well. Benga says, I think the government should go ahead and deactivate those passports. We dilly-dally too much in this country. We need to announce before taking action? Well, it was a warning. Abami Akaraki says, hello, the problem of Nigeria started in 2015. Okay. Bingo says, for how long will we allow IPOB? Okay. No dissenting, disparaging comments here. And I read your messages before I take them live on air. So, Mr. C, thank you so much for your analysis. Your robust analysis is always on a Monday morning, fresh. Mr. C is at Mr. C on all social media platforms. Cheta is at Chexta, CHXTA. Let's continue the conversation with hashtag freshly pressed 981. My name is Valentine.
Zero worries.
You're leaving out to do all the work. What's going on?